Challenge your potential and the sky's the limit. Join me, Emily Ibbott, in a diary to empower. From a starting point of a love for dance, my life has evolved, but along the way, I've learned so much in how we develop, learn and grow from those around us to elevate us even further on. Be inspired and be open to learn, and no limit will ever exist. Come along with me on my own journey in personal development, but with guests who have empowered me and are still doing so in my own journey. Hey, welcome back. And today I have the lovely Will next to me, and we go way back.
We go way back.
So Will, to set the scene, I guess, to begin this podcast, obviously you went to same school.
Yep.
So your sister was in the year above me at school, and you were in the year below me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And through lockdown, it's always weird coming back to this story because I explain it to so many people. We just built up like a little group, didn't we? It was like from Courtney, who just kind of wanted people to feel good to move, and we did like classes on Zoom. We did quizzes, as everyone did. And then when everything started lifting, we did a lot of workouts on the polo fields. And we had such a cool group of us, which was awesome. And so that feels like a lifetime ago now. Obviously heading to like 4 years. It is
a long time ago when everything kind of collaborated.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of a nice place to start for your journey, which Will is on here to kind of talk about, and where he's at now and how things have kind of developed. Because when you started out, when we did those workouts, you didn't do anything before that, even at school. Like, did you do much sports or anything?
Yeah, I played a little bit of sport. So like the backstory was obviously, as Emily said, like we all met through that collaboration of everyone wanted kind of some more social aspect during lockdown. And then we got into
to gym because nothing was open.
Nothing was open, nothing was going on, just going out for walks, going and training, just chatting to people really, being sociable. So yeah, looking at the backstory, obviously like back in school, played sport, but not too competitively, like more from an enjoyment aspect.
Yeah.
So it would be like, played a bit of football, mainly basketball, rugby, that side of things. Was never really, quote unquote, like an athlete. It was more just, I enjoy sport. I enjoy socialising.
Really understand it.
You don't at that age.
You
just kind of look at it as more of like a social gathering, really. And then from there, then life kind of continues. And I feel like everyone goes through that point where you kind of realize you're never going to make it in sport, and you're not dedicated enough to go down that route because.
Just depends on kind of everything that's going on. And I find as well, you've got like at school, they're always like GCSEs and then college and then what you're going to do for uni. Like it all kind of pummels together quite closely. Because that would have been your uni years. When did you finish?
So for school finished in 2017 for me.
Yeah.
And then obviously, I think that's when you come away, you don't have the clubs going on, you don't have all that stuff going on. You kind of take a step back and go, what can I do to kind of look after myself, but also what can I do to buy the time, really? And that's when I think most people do get into the gym at that like 16, 17 age. You're becoming a young adult at that point. You're thinking, I want to develop, I want more from this. So yeah, like I remember first gym I trained at was college, and I trained at Ash Manor Gym, actually.
Oh, okay.
A friend of mine, Alex, he got me into training. I remember he was going to the gym, and I was like, one day I was just like, you know what, I'm gonna push myself, because I got kind of into that kind of lull of you stop playing sports, you stop doing stuff,
and your body like changes completely.
Your body changes at that age all the time, and I got to a point where, so I didn't do the whole like college uni side of things. I literally did finish school, went to college, but did an apprenticeship. So I was only in college one day a week. Then I was working on a building site, kind of 4 days a week. So you go from education to pretty much full-time work. And it's a bit of like a, whoa, what's going on here?
Shock to the system.
Shock to the system. And then from there, you're kind of like, where are my escapisms almost?
Yeah. And like how, leading obviously into sort of, I guess, connecting with all of like us lot when we started gymming a lot more, like how did you find that? Did you just kind of like hook onto it? Was it that you just wanted to feel fitter, stronger, like just all of the above and just look after you?
Yeah, so I went through, I'd say like, you all kind of go through that period. Like I was training from a younger age, but I never really trained.
Yeah.
The way we train today, especially like the sessions I do nowadays, are so different to what, because I was 17 years of age, going to the gym with a friend. I remember we'd get in the gym, there were all the machines kind of like surrounding, and we'd start on one side and just work your way around.
Which is great for starting. Like when you're starting out in the gym, you kind of have no idea. So it's kind of that, like, okay, I'll do a bit of everything. I don't know what a split is. Like you just kind of, and it's kind of a phase that you learn as you go as well, because you kind of then can narrow down the type of training you want to go into or how you want to develop things and things like that.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I'd always train, but not to that level of extent. Yeah. And at that point, like I said, like I was on site, you're active every day, but it's not a healthy environment to be in. Like I remember break and lunch, it'll be like, right, let's go to the cafe on break.
Yeah.
Lunch, you're just getting something from like a meal deal from Tesco's or something. Dinner is like, you've worked all day, you come home, you go to the gym, dinner's just whatever's going, you know?
Yeah.
It's that kind of life. And I remember I got to that point when, so I was training at Ash Manor Gym, working on site, left there, trained at the gym in Farnborough, which I think is most people's next.
Yeah.
The people that live in the area near us that's kind of the next progression. And then there was this new gym opening up called obviously Jets,
which I'm still at
now works at, and I used to work at, and where everything kind of first started. And I got myself into Jets, and I was still training maybe 3 to 5 times a week, nothing crazy, no intensity, no split, no just I need an escapism from work pretty much. But I didn't really have that mindset and that drive of where do I want to be, what do I want to be doing. And I just started talking to the guy on the desk, who obviously we know as now being Courtney, who was our first coach.
And who's so many people, like, I always say about sort of those starting journeys to people, like without the kind of making that decision. And it was you guys who really inspired me, because you were already with Court.
I was with Court.
And I jumped onto the ship a little bit later.
I remember because it was at that point in time where just pre-lockdown, so it opened January. I think we went into lockdown the end of Feb. So it was a very short period of time. I remember going in every day. I'd always train with a training partner that I used to work with. And Courtney would almost talk to me, and the people that don't know my backstory, my journey, like I was by that point very fat and overweight. I was in a position where I wasn't very confident. I was very like introverted, and he'd always like try and kind of break down my barriers every time I went in, and I was waiting for my friend, and you just have a nice conversation.
Difference. Like it's so nice being able to do that with people and just being like a friendly soul in the gym, because it really changes their perception of the gym, and that may have happened to yourself. Like so many people are terrified of walking through those doors, but actually just a friendly someone being like, oh hi, you're all right, what you doing, what you training today, makes such a difference.
It's so important for that gym community. And and from that point I think it was literally the start of Feb. He was like, what are you actually training for, what are your goals? And I was like, I don't know, I'm just here to...
I'm just here to gym.
I'm just here to gym. Like, you know, it's just like a tick box exercise. I go to work, I go to sleep, I go to the gym. And
that's what I must do.
And that's that. And then he was like, I want to help you out if you're interested. And I remember I signed up for coaching, paid for 12 weeks up front. I remember the conversation I had with my mum and my sister at the time when we were living at home. And they weren't the keenest on it, because I'd always gone through these phases where, like I was saying, I was overweight, and I got to a point where I was like, I'm going to cut. And then like by the weekend, the Domino's delivery driver would be ringing the doorbell, and I'd be like, how did that happen? Yeah. And I never took it seriously. And I don't know really what shifted. I remember one day I woke up and I'd weigh myself semi-regularly, as you do. I remember waking up and weighing myself. And I remember I weighed 100 kilos, and I was kind of like, I need to make change. I'm like, I think I'd been 18 for a few months by that point. I was like, I'm an adult now. You think you're an adult at that age, you're truly not. You're still a child. But I
still feel like a child now.
I think you're like, I'm actually like, I'm 18. I'm a man. I kind of have to take some initiative here and realise no one's going to do the work except for me.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it does take those little moments in our head to know that actually, like, let's see what can actually happen if I commit and just keep going. And that doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't always just it doesn't suddenly make it easy. You've still got to kind of go through that
100%.
shift, but you've got to be determined enough and be like, you know, control with yourself and that discipline. And sometimes it's just like, okay, let's just go and see what happens.
Exactly that. So yeah, I remember signing up for that 12 weeks. And then, I mean, as we know, the rest is history. But within that time, obviously, then lockdown happened. And then I think you joined on with Courtney a few weeks into lockdown. And we were all just kind of...
We were all doing a transformation, but at different timings.
We were all doing different things, different timings. But they were all on the same preface of we're just trying to better ourselves as athletes, as humans,
and then
really.
you did your first shoot. Was that at the end of the 12 weeks?
No, so that was later on. So I did the 12 weeks initially. And then I remember coming to the end of the 12 weeks and Courtney was like, because at that point, obviously, I was 100 kilos. I don't remember how much I'd lost within the 12 weeks. But he was like, let's push on for longer because we need to push on. And I was like, absolutely fine. I'd seen some good results.
Yeah.
And then we pushed on. And then the actual shoot that me and Dawn ended up doing was in September. So it was...
Okay, because ours was in August.
Yeah, it was 24 weeks.
Yeah.
No, it was 28 weeks. It was a 7-month. It was a 7-month cut that I did with Courtney, and then obviously within the 7 months I lost 24 kilos, which is a bit mad when you think about it.
And it's cool to document it as well. And I always say to people, like, obviously I do a lot of team shoots, but like shoots aren't just there for someone to like be absolutely necessarily peeled. Sometimes shoots are there for gaining confidence.
100%.
To like be able to be like, look at the changes I've made so far. I know I'm not in the position that I necessarily want to be in, but you're constantly striving for more. And it's kind of that documentation of that process up to that point. So for you, during those X amount of weeks, it was that big thing of being like, look at the hell of what I've done. Like,
exactly
this is so amazing. And your confidence just soared from there.
Went from, because you guys knew what was going on, and people that knew me closely knew what was going on, but because we were still in lockdown for a large majority of this dieting phase, and I didn't have a fitness page back then, and I didn't document things, I was like, I'm just gonna disappear and then almost pop up one day and just be like, ta-da, here's the finished product, you know? And that's almost what I did. And I remember like, because we did the shoot, like, because we had lockdown, then we had the little break in lockdown.
Yeah.
Everything happened, then we went into more lockdowns. Everyone knows the stories. I'm not going to tell you about them.
No one needs to. We don't need
to relive that again. But yeah, like, I remember going through that phase and doing the shoot, and actually, you're always... Even doing the shoot, I was very self-conscious because I was like, I'm in a gym surrounded by all these guys that are fucking... Oh, can I swear?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can
I was like, these guys are fucking huge. And I'm here like, I'm like a skinny 19-year-old kid at that point.
But then for you, that was your best ever
That's
look.
the best I've ever looked.
Which is kind of that reminder for anyone out there. Obviously, I know a lot of people are starting to think about their goals into the new year and into next year. And, you know, looking long-term is a fantastic way to sort of hone into things. But even though we can look long-term, we still want to focus on what you're doing up to that point. And
100%.
You know, it for you were probably like, this is my best now, but you know, seeing that inspiration of everyone around you, it is quite daunting. Like, it is, you're in a gym with other people. Like, it's a lot.
It is a lot. But it kind of, I think you take it one or two ways. You can look at it and think it's so unattainable, or you can look at it and think that's going to be me.
Yeah.
And then it pushes you to be the better person. But yeah, finished that shoot and then went into a gaining phase, and I ended up being coached by Courtney for a whole year.
Was that a year?
It was a whole year we did.
Amazing. Yeah. And it really then shifted for you how you then viewed your training, didn't it? And how you then pushed further into the bodybuilding side of things and the connections that you made, which was pretty cool as well. Because, you know, it's awesome that your journey can develop like that. And I think that, like, you know, without 100%. That first shoot that I did with Court, I wouldn't even be doing what I'm doing now.
Be doing this. Yeah. Like, it's crazy.
It's nuts. And I said to Court in that first year, I was like, no, I'm never going to compete. And here I am. But it's like, I think it's cool that you can always think further of your journey.
100%. And that's it. Like, being able to look back on that first conversation with him, it's like, how the hell are we here today?
Yeah.
Like, had I not made just the one change
or that one choice
that
to
whole
be like, let's
butterfly
go.
effect is like, it would be almost interesting to see the person I would be had
If
things
that conversation
not
hadn't
ever
have happened.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's the beauty of it, which is awesome. And I think that if I hadn't have even gone to Pure Gym way back when, I wouldn't have even known who Courtney was, or Jets, or you. But like, it just wouldn't have happened, which you can obviously go into a whole snowball effect from it. And how did that then change for you to want to go into the competitive side of things?
So I think, me and Courtney, obviously the coach, we then became really good friends. I then was coached by him for a year, and I then left, and I was like, I'm gonna do my own thing. I'd learned enough by that point,
and also learn more, I guess,
and
to
also
see what
like
it's
you
like
wanted
on
to
your
learn
own.
more. And at that point, I just myself qualified as a personal trainer over that last stint of lockdown, and then got into obviously working within a gym and that environment. And I was kind of like, I want to prove to myself and also prove to my clients that like I can do what I preach and what I want other people to do, because you're not going to ask someone to do something that you haven't done yourself. It's the realistic thing.
I think it's really awesome, more so to have that relatableness.
100%.
Like if you can explain something to a client that you've been through, you know, I always, every now and then even in my team check-ins, which they'll know, I every now and then give a nugget of perspective of like maybe something I've experienced for the thing that we're talking about. And it does set so much more onto, you kind of read it from the outside, whereas sometimes when it's just you, it's a bit not lonely, but when your coach is when you're able to relate to your coach, it makes such a difference.
Exactly that. So I think I did maybe 3 months self-coaching, and I'd already kind of mentally got myself more into the scene of bodybuilding and more interested in that competitive aspect, but I didn't really know the route to go down, how to get there, what's entailed, because there's so much you don't know what's going on. And then that would be in let's try and work these dates out. No, it would have been 2021. Yeah, 2021.
And it's making those connections, isn't it? It's like following people on Instagram, following the federation pages. Like you kind of want to snoop out what the hell's going on, or even visiting like a bodybuilding show, because for anyone out there who hasn't seen a bodybuilding show, it all makes sense and falls into place when you go and see one. Obviously, how they run is all very, very similar, and the smell of tan will never leave you.
So I think August 2021, I just turned 20 was when I signed up with Finn.
Okay.
Who I've obviously just found through social media, knowing people. Obviously, we know Will Jones was coached by him initially, so I already knew kind of a bit of backstory there. And then Finn ended up being my coach for 3 years, just over 3 years, which is
I don't know where time does a bit,
which is mental. And that's kind of, he was the person that kind of pushed me more into that. The first chat I had with him when you're doing your coaching application, I was like, look, I'm interested in competing. I don't know what's entailed. I don't know what's needed. I just want to go down this route. And he just set me like this very substantial guideline of like, right, these are the timelines. We're going to diet here. We're going to bulk here. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're looking at shows for 2023. And in 2021, I was thinking, no, shows for 2024. And I was thinking in 2021, I was thinking, God, like 3 years until you're like, that's a long time, but realistically, it's not at all. And when you're looking to get to that next stage, you want to almost set those larger goals and larger achievements that you've got. And for me, the goal to compete was more from an aspect of, I think, proving something to myself. I knew that I'd done a photo shoot. I was proud by that. And then getting into like, I want to get there. And I wanted to be competitive. It was like, right, Finn was like, you need at least 3 years minimum. I'd still be a junior then, which is why we set that guideline to get yourself to that perspective.
And it just takes time. Like, I think people forget that building muscle takes so long.
So long.
And it's really
for
tough.
Us natties over here is it's a grind.
It's not to say that it's impossible. And you can really set yourself as, I always say to people, like, set yourself as high as possible, but also give yourself realistic timelines, which is 100%. Probably why it was shocking for Finn to tell you 3 years. But actually, it's kind of like understanding what that entails. And you're like, okay, like, actually, when you break it down, it's not that long.
When you put it into, like, gaining phases and dieting phases and you look at the perspective and the timelines, now we have the knowledge that we have as well from coaching individuals. You do get to a point and you'll understand, you can pick anyone out of a room and you can realistically know how long they need to get in shape and then how long they'll need to bulk up and so on and so forth. And it's understanding these things and being
And it's also understanding
realistic.
Training intensity.
Exactly
What, like even for my clients, I've had a lot of questions of what a deload is, because I was on a deload last week. And it's understanding all of these phases and why we do things and why we're optimizing certain things, and nutrition and why we optimize certain things of nutrition, and depending on what phase we're in. Like there's so much to take in, which is why having a coach is so fantastic, because they're able to give that perspective and also learn we want you to learn as much as possible. So to be able to pick out and identify those things to explain, like it makes it so much better to apply for your own journey
100%.
more than anything else. And obviously then forwarding through closer to, I don't know, say this time last year when you really got into close to prep, like how did that kind of, but it feels like
it feels like a whirlwind. There's been a lot of so looking at kind of almost getting myself in the most optimal position for that prep, and we still hadn't, as you know, you're waiting for show dates to come out, you're waiting, you don't know exactly when prep's going to start, you don't know whether you want to do like in your head you want to do either the early shows or the late shows, so on and so forth, and it's almost planning around that. And I remember this time last year, obviously within the time starting from with Finn to that point in particular, as we know, like a lot happened within my life that really changed my perspective on things, and I'd got to a position where literally I was moving out as well. So I'd got my own place, my own apartment, moving away from home, being almost quote unquote like alone, not alone, but like you are in a different environment.
Yeah, when you're not used to like living on your own, it's very, very
setting
different.
yourself up and being in the position. And we approached that phase, and obviously Finn knew at the time that I had a lot going on with my life, so we approached, and he made sure my mind was in the right place to prep, because I think that's something that people neglect, and especially nowadays, like so many people go into preps and
they're not easy.
It's not. You don't understand the position you're putting yourself in.
Yeah,
you have to be able to almost look in the mirror and be like, what are you willing to sacrifice to get to that point?
And it's tough because it's very, very different to just a regular dieting phase. There are priorities if you really want to push sort of in competing, and being competitive is very different to just, I guess, stepping on stage.
Exactly
and, you take into account what your kind of life's like, your routine's like, what your family life's like. And that sounds ridiculous to say, but if I hadn't have been, like, my family are extremely understanding of the processes that I go to through dieting phases and shoots and preps and all of this. And by the time it came to my my stage prep, actually they understood so much, because those last 6 weeks, if anyone was to have a conversation with my mum about it, were not her favourite. Not to say that anything majorly happened, but my patience levels were non-existent. And obviously at home, that's not the best thing.
Exactly that.
So it's taking into all of that into consideration, which I think is so important. Like you want to be in the happiest, best spot you can,
for sure.
With all of those things in place, and your relationships and your family being in a great spot, so that they understand the journey that you're on.
100%. And I think, so leading into that, we did like a little pre-prep phase, which I think is very important for...
It's kind of like a mini cut prior to getting into things.
I'd say, it's more just setting yourself up to be in a position where you don't need to be pulling off 60, 70 pounds on a prep, because that's never fun. So that was 10 weeks, I think. That was 10 weeks, pulled off like 30 pounds during that time. And it's almost a dry run of prep in short of just being like, is either from a coach perspective or from an athlete perspective, are you prepared?
Is this the right kind of route?
This is just a very short aspect of what is going to be what you want to be doing. Are you in the best position to do that? And you kind of learn from that perspective. And that I was still at home during that phase, and then I said, like, I moved out, and then I think it was like a 12-week, it was a gaining phase, but it was more just 12 weeks pushing food back up. Yeah. Getting yourself into a good position, enjoying Christmas, the festive period. Like you say, that time with your family is really enjoyable, especially when at that point in my life, I was so committed to the bodybuilding scene of things that I neglected so many other aspects of my life. I was so just like a horse with blinkers, basically. And I was like, even like when we'd go out, like Tupperware would come with me with my own food. I'd see my friends down the pub. I wouldn't drink. Like, it was so like...
What, during prep or...
Pre-prep.
Out pre-prep.
Pre-prep, even in off-season.
Yeah.
Like, it'll be like, if it's not my off-plan meal, then... Or if I've already had it, then no, I'm sticking to this, my food, so on and so forth. I was so like dialed in.
Which is great.
Which is good to a certain extent. It's not healthy when you look back on it.
Yeah, and I think it's, I always say to people at the moment, I feel like I've had such an amazing year being in off season and balance. Now, nothing changes my training. Nothing really changes my nutrition. I can life more is what I like to say.
100%.
And actually, it's made my relationship with so many things so healthy. And actually, my perspective on gaining weight and my perspective of bodybuilding, how much healthier it is, which I guess is kind of the route that you're kind of maybe have learnt from.
Yeah, 100%, which was like, you then go to this period where you almost like, in my head I was like, I know that I'm going into a prep. My prep started the 2nd of January, so I was like
straight in.
I'm like, I know I'm going straight in, so I'm like, I'm actually going to give myself this downtime, give myself like that festive period. I had so much food, drunk so much. Like that first Christmas, being in my mum's new home, being somewhere else, being with all the family was really nice, and it was really nice to enjoy that. And but also, you know, like, it was almost like
D-Day's around the corner.
In your head, you're like, right, I can enjoy myself because I know from the 2nd of January I'm on it.
Yeah,
and that's
which
where
is
prep
kind
started.
of where I think sometimes people have that on-off switch, where balancing it a little bit in the middle when we've got those flexibility of protocols is quite healthy, because we've not then gone, okay,
100%.
It's fine because I've got this. But yeah, then prep started.
Exactly that. And I think you do, like, it's crazy because you develop, like, I think the practice makes perfect. So we've done countless amounts of diet phases, gaining phases. Like, I have this ability nowadays where if I say I'm going to do something, there's something in my head where I can just switch it.
We'll do it.
And it's just like, you switches on, that's me. I'm locked in now. Like, you just get after it, and that's that. So yeah, so I remember literally like New Year's Eve, absolutely plastered at friend's house, singing karaoke. The next day you've got going to like the calf, full English, and then the next day it's like, right, I'm up at 6 a.m, I'm going to do my steps, do my cardio, go to the gym, all my meals prepped. And it's like just being able to have that switch. I don't know, some people have it, some people don't. It is a luxury that you have it, but
and it's that commitment
just
more than anything else.
And you prepare yourself, and it's like, I've been working for, at that point, 3 years with Finn to almost get there.
Get into it.
Let's do it.
100%. And I even think now, like, I say to people, you know, obviously I talk to people a lot about prep, you know, it's going to start around April time next year. Like, I'm already plugging my brain into understanding that my days are going to be busier, they're going to be longer, my steps are going to have to fit in, my cardio is going to, like, I'm already telling myself just, you know, my social occasions will massively reduce. No one look at my stories for the next 3 weeks. But it's kind of understanding that, you know, in this phase, this reduces, that goes up, and sort of it's like, go ahead,
exactly
straight
that.
to it.
And I found that, so during that start to prep, obviously, like I said, I'd had my own place for about 3 months by then, which was nice to settle in. I'd started a new job, so I'd literally taken myself out of the fitness industry. I'd left personal training because I had my own place. It wasn't sustainable, and I was like, right, I need to be able to pay my bills. So that's when I got into what I do now, which is working in hospitality. And that was the biggest...
At the best Italian restaurant ever, must I add.
That was the biggest shift ever, which was like, you're there and you're going... I've gone from so many dieting phases where it is quite, to be honest, like, it is a piece of piss when you are practicing what you preach and you're personal training, you're on the floor every day and you are doing that because you can have your meals at the time you set you are. So this was the first dieting phase that I'd ever done where I was like, what? Right, I'm working on my feet every day.
Let's go. At least your steps are
I'm surrounded by food, the best food as well, and shifts are long, and like especially on weekends, like I do 12-hour shifts. And looking back, I don't even know how you turn into a robot.
Yeah, you just kind of do what's necessary.
I don't know how you do it, but yeah, like you're doing your cardio, you're training, you're meal prepping, and you're doing 12 hours of work on your feet all day, coming home, trying to get as much sleep as possible.
Yeah.
Rinse, repeat. And it is just like, it takes a lot out of you. It is.
Yeah. And it's a lot. And especially when, you know, we push for as much as possible and we've got these big days in our head and we've got those show days, you know, there is a lot, but you don't even blink that you wouldn't put that much work into it.
Yeah.
And that's what is so incredible. And it is the extreme side of things for anyone out there just looking sort of the general lifestyle or a lifestyle shoot or anything like that. It is very, very, very different.
It's the polar opposite.
But, you know, just going into this journey is so interesting to delve into. I mean, obviously we spoke a lot through that time anyway. And how did it feel coming closer to show day? Like, you know, prep was kind of a lot. There was a lot of things going on.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess when was your show?
Look at Matt. It would have been, I want to say the 26th of May. It was May. Let me check the diary. We're gonna get accurate representation here.
Definite dates. And because you also going sort of into that, you know, we all do it. We all connect on social media. We all share a lot and we share our journeys. And it's tough as well when you're sort of, you know, because you've got people are intrigued and people are trying to sort of understand the sort of journeys you're on, whether that be another bodybuilder or whether that be someone completely your average Joe, as I would say.
Exactly that. Yeah. So the first show was 26th of May. I did 2 shows. Second show was 2 weeks after that on the 9th of June. And so yeah, what would have been? I would have been dieting for 20 weeks to the first show and 22 for the second show.
Yeah.
So I'd say a pretty average length of time for that first kind of your first season, realistically. So yeah, almost approaching the show, at this point, obviously, social media, and I was still coaching online at that point, but I'd stopped, like I said, the in-person personal training side of things, and still trying to document my progress.
Yeah, your progress, your journey.
It's not just, it's one of those where you utilize social media from like a business standpoint, but also it's something that nowadays, the ability to document everything you do is incredible, because you know in 5 years time, 20 years time, like it's something you're able to look back on and it's still going to be there. Like,
even from when we did lockdown
being
stuff,
able to
looking back on that, we're like, oh my God, our training's so much better.
Exactly that.
So much more improved. Our physiques are more improved. So again, it's that documentation.
It's a luxury, yeah. And I found, as I think everyone does, the initial start of prep is just another dieting phase. Like it's pretty. It's not
until you get into it. It's probably pretty, 12 weeks plus.
Yeah, I was I'd say 10 weeks in and shifted a lot of weight, feeling good. Training was still on point, and then from that point on, it's like, right, we're gonna ramp it up a little bit deeper. More, and because you've got your timeline, you know the date that's set for the show, and you're like, right, you've also a rough estimate of what your body weight needs to be, almost like where you want to be as well. And
especially visually, like
especially that nowadays, like so the initial start was fine, and then like we say, we become robots. So going into that stage of getting nearer the show and everything that's going on, like it was very almost seamless of like, I just do what my coach tells me to do, and that's that. You might not like it sometimes, but that's that.
And you don't that's all you know. Exactly. Especially like you just have to go off of that, and obviously understanding all the phases that you previously done with Finn as well. And you don't know what show day entails. It's very different.
Exactly that, and then obviously going closer to show was kind of when everything went wrong. But to be honest, like a few people I know that I've spoken to about things, and I'm going to be very open and honest on this podcast because that's me as a person. That's kind of where things did go tits up for me, which was leading into that show and it being my first season. And I think prior to that, even me and Finn had plenty of chats understanding, right, I'm not where I want to be and I'm not competitive. And he'd said to me, like, look, at the 6 week out mark, he was like, if you wanted to, we could just do like a photo shoot and then we could go into a gaining phase and we could look to compete later on in the future, which was obviously, as the coach he is, it's respectable because he understands, like, you all go in
thinking wanting
to do your best, but I'm not delusional either. I knew that I was nowhere near as competitive as the other guys. And there's some absolute freaks out there. And shout out to the guys that I met on show day, because those guys are incredible athletes and the best. And
inspiring.
Yeah, exactly
like backstage is a vibe.
But I knew for myself, I'd been like, I told myself I'm going to do this, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it at the end of the day, which, yeah, so obviously continue documenting that side of things. And then obviously 4 weeks out was when like kind of everything blew up on social media for myself, from the most random video, which I think that's just social media at the end of the day. Like,
there's no set algorithm.
There's no set algorithm. Sometimes you post the most incredible video that you worked, spent countless hours making, and you get 1,000 views. I just happened to post
what you eat in a day.
Yeah, that was the first. I was just like, what I eat in a day, because people were messaging me being like, you've lost loads of weight on prep, what are you eating? I just shot that reel up, and I was like, it's getting a bit of engagement. It got like 10,000 views. I was like, that's pretty cool. Next morning, woke up 50,000 views. I was like, this is. I'd had reels pop up before, but like getting to 50,000 views, I was like, this is getting pretty serious here. And then within like 3-4 days, 1 million, and you're just like, okay, what's going on here? And that stage was like, I started getting a lot of hate comments due to my physique and kind of just people being people at the end of the day. Like, some people are incredible and some people aren't.
Keyboard warriors. And if you look at them, you know, what they can say, I think social media is nowadays can be dangerously powerful.
Exactly that.
And it's thinking twice about understanding someone's journey who really no one has any clue about.
No one has.
I think this, like, I see people, like, you know, I post a lot of daily updates on my story, and I just kind of assume that, everyone's kind of seeing what I'm doing. Some people do, some people want to put their 2 pence in on 100%. A lot, and it's keeping the focus to you. And I think this is where people really don't understand some of the impact that can come from it. Especially you were 4 weeks out from your first ever bodybuilding show that you'd been working for like and 18 weeks up to.
The initial spike was for me quite exciting, because I was like, I've never been someone that's cared too much about other people's opinions, just because at the end of the day, like, the people's opinions that I used to care about was what made me into the person I am today.
Yeah, 100%.
So then when it comes from like, I'm getting hate, I'm just like, yeah, cool, like,
whatever, crack on.
Like, and I knew that like the people that truly did matter, which to me was like, at that point in time, was like, right, what does Finn think? And that's what matters. And he's the person I listen to.
And your people around.
And the people around that I train on a regular basis. Exactly that. And yeah, it's like the first week was fine. Even going into week 2 was pretty fine. I'd had a chat with Finn about it, and it was a very brief chat. Finn was very frank with me, and I'd had loads of people reach out to me, which is why I think it made life easier initially, which was I had so much support from people being like, I don't understand how you're still. I almost played the game realistically, like, because I kept posting things to kind of entice these people in, because I knew that it had hit the algorithm, and I was like, you know what? If it's going to blow up, let's just make it blow up full time.
And do you think that, would you have done that now if that was the same thing?
Yeah. 100%.
And it's,
because like, at the end of the day, like, I would never change anything from my past, because that's molded me into the person I am. Some things I'm not proud of, and some things I am proud of. And just me being almost the person I am, I was like, you know what, let's, like, if you're going to give me hate, you might as well give me as much hate as you can, because I've got something to gain from this. And that was kind of the way I looked at it. And it was good. And like I said, initially, and especially with previous things in life, like someone saying something to me, I'd never had a problem with. I was like, my mental health, I've dealt with so much worse in life. I was like, this is fine, which is why Finn didn't really he didn't care too much about it, because he'd said to people around him that were training and been like, oh, if you went to work, have you checked up on him? He'd been like, yeah, well, it's fine. He's just take it on the chin and he cracks on, because that's the person I was.
Yeah.
But you get to a point, and what I realised during this time was like, I was working in the restaurant, so I have my watch, and you get pings, notifications and stuff. And I remember, like, as the video blew up and as other videos blew up, like, I was getting hundreds of messages a day, DMs, hate comments, and like, they're just...
It's too much for a person to cope with.
It's a lot. And
it
at that point, I didn't realise what was kind of going on, because you're still so...
Tunnel visioned.
And I was getting so much support from people I know in the industry, people that I respect, people that I don't know in the industry, like people that I'd never met that I'd followed for years, that are high caliber athletes, just reaching out to me and being like, mate, like, just do you, man, like, just enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
And it was fine. I'd say the first 2 weeks were absolutely fine, but it's when people, as we all know in life, like, everyone's life is focused solely on them. Of course, we care for other people and such, but once something happens in life, everyone else just continues with their life. You're still stuck in the same position. So I was still getting all these things, all these hate comments. Every video I posted ended up getting hundreds of thousands of views, all these hate comments. And like, the only person that I was talking to realistically at the time was like the girl I was seeing, who made things a lot easier with like how she put things in perspective and that. But at that point, I'm 2 weeks out from show day.
There's a lot. It's a lot of stress.
My mind is like, all these people are saying these horrible things about me. My coach at the time was saying I shouldn't realistically compete, but I've told myself I'm going to compete, and that's where things did spiral. And I went into this awful phase of, like, one weekend I just started binging on food at 2 weeks out. And I remember I think I just got to a point where I'd been so, like you say, so tunnel vision, so blocking out everything. And it's like, you are a human at the end of the day. Like, I can say nothing's going to affect me. That old saying, like, sticks and stones might break my bones, but words, you know. But realistically, after a while of, like, just that slowly chipping away, it just got to a point where I just kind of let it all in. And it was probably one of the lowest points I've had in my life, was waking up that next morning after the binge and being like, and it didn't actually have, the initial binge had barely any impact on my scale weight and such, because I was so depleted at the time, so close to show, so much going on.
Yeah.
But it was more of that like mental state of myself, which was like, fuck, I've let my coach down, I've let myself down, like, I can't believe I've done this kind of position.
And actually, sort of in the perspective of it, isn't that at all. Like, that's not the case, but that's what you feel.
But that's how you feel.
And I think it's important to highlight that, obviously, in extreme sports there are a lot of, this is like, like people talking about it. It's very
it's very normal,
common, normal to understand these feelings, give or take. Obviously, not everyone's journey has the same things that are going on in terms of the social media side of things, but I think it's so important to highlight and also speak about,
100%.
Because I think we do, like, the general reaction for yourself would be, I feel bad, or this feels rubbish, or this, and I feel like it's the end of the world. And then it's like, and it does feel like that because everything's so heightened in prep as well.
Your emotions are.
And it's not until you're out of it that actually, like you say, initially, actually, that didn't probably even touch the sides. But obviously important to impact, because it's their breakdown of your relationship with food and your relationship with yourself with food and things like that. And I think people forget that actually these things are really important to have a good relationship
100%,
with.
100%. And it's one of those things which I'd always struggled with food prior when I was overweight.
Yeah.
And then I got to a position where I was able to just knuckle down, and I spent that 4-year period prior to the back end of prep where I was just so on it with everything. But I'd never really addressed the issue I had.
Yeah.
I just kind of pushed it to the side and then went into bodybuilding.
Yeah.
Which is what you do. And then all these external factors start having an impact. But at the very end of the day, no external variable should affect you. It's the internal. And I think once I let my guard down and I let myself down, I almost was like, that internal switch just occurred.
Yeah.
And that weekend I probably sunk like 10,000 calories a day. I remember there was one evening I couldn't even sleep. Like, I had to go to the toilet, shove my fingers down my throat and like throw up just to get some decent sleep, and being so like demoralized. And so like, I've spent this 3 years with Finn to get to this point. I've then spent this whole, by that point, 18 weeks on prep, getting myself to the best position possible. And then it's just like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what?
And also understanding how to navigate coming out of that. And the next day, what do we do? Like,
exactly,
you know,
that.
and how did that then, I guess, sort of skip into the next show, and then, or even your first show? Like, how are we feeling sort of
so it got to a point where this had occurred, and then me and Finn had a long conversation. Then he called me, and we set a game plan in action of kind of like damage limitation almost, and being like, right, because a lot of, especially like I say, you're like so depleted by that point. I'd obviously gained, I think I might gain like 5 pounds or 8 pounds over the weekend or something, and obviously we know a lot of that is going to be just fluid and water weight. So it was like, right, let's go train. Let's do 30 minutes in the sauna after training. Let's just get back onto that track,
routine.
Get back into that routine. And within like the week of prep, the week out of the show, it was like we were 2 weeks out. Then by that 1 week out point, I was back to the same body weight that I was the week before. So I'd basically just missed a week of fat loss due to the circumstances of what had happened. And then leading into that first show was kind of where things were like, right, Finn was like, we're not going to do a quote unquote normal peak. It was like, we're just going to diet into the show and just get you as lean as possible, because I still wasn't I was lean from a lean perspective, but from a bodybuilding perspective, I wasn't stage lean. By that point, what was I? I was like 164 pounds on stage, and I started prep at 200 pounds. So it was like a big amount of weight that dropped off. And realistically, I don't think I could have been lean. Obviously, had all those things not occurred. But even looking back of it, I don't have the muscularity to be quote unquote peeled inside out. I need more muscularity. So Finn was like, let's just diet into the show and then do that first show, which was obviously the UK DPA first time show on the 26th of May. Yes. Which it was a fun but interesting experience. Yeah. Obviously going down, as you know, like you're going down, you've got your base coat. This first show, my mum came with me. We had an Airbnb together. And then I met Finn down there. I ended up doing 2 classes. I did the first timers class and then the first timers classic as well, because I enjoy my posing. So
Will is very, very good at posing.
So we
you've done that since day dot as well.
It was just something that's really what got me into bodybuilding, was the posing aspect. It was very cool. That art of moving your body and being able to show your physique through movement was something beautiful that I really latched onto almost. It's really cool. And obviously that first show was a mix of emotions. Like initially, I think I got to that point where you're kind of like sat backstage, you're like, there's nothing more that can be done. So it's kind of embracing the moment. Yeah, and it's enjoying that. And I think no matter how you feel heading on to show day, like enjoy every second of it. Exactly. Because, you work so hard for it. You want to enjoy being on stage and posing and being around incredible other athletes with the same mindset as you. And it's pretty awesome. 100%. And I remember I was the first class on for the day. And that's where things kind of took a turn, which was like my coach, Finn, was there. And I've spoke to Finn about it. And that's why I obviously left him at the end of the day. But like, he wasn't there for me for that first show. Like the timings, as we know, all the shows, the timings are always the timings all over the place. Really, really tough. And he ended up just not being backstage with me to help me pump up and basically look me over before you go on stage, which is kind of that. It's almost that validation you want, especially being your first time on stage. You want your coach to just help you out, look at you, and go, "Yep, go enjoy it, mate." And I didn't have that, and I kind of got in my own head. I was pumping up backstage. I was a bit upset, but then once I got to the side of the stage, I had some fellow competitors that we all know each other, we all follow each other, and it's always nice. And they're like, "Oh, it was good to." It's really nice. Because what happened with the social media is I switched off. Yeah. I came off social media for that week prior to the show day. And it's just not worth angering it anymore or damaging your own mindset. And peak week needs to be a time where you're relaxed, you're chilled, 100%. You're excited a little bit. Exactly that. Like, you want to just feel like you're having a great time that week because the work is done. Like, 100%. You're feeling the best you can. Exactly that. Each show. So, and then I came and I came to the show, and a lot of guys came up to me and they're like, "I didn't think you were going to be here today because of everything that happened, and you'd not been on social media." We were like, "I don't know whether you're going to compete or not." And it was really nice to actually, you don't realise how much support you have from people until you actually should be really proud of meet the people in real life, because they're just people on a screen at the end of the day until you actually meet these individuals and you realise they're some of the best people you're ever going to meet. Yeah. And some of these guys I'm still in contact with today. Yeah, it's so and then
nice.
The stage, you walk out on stage and it's one of the most incredible experiences ever. Like just being there and being like, I'm just gonna show off and enjoy myself. Like this is what I'd worked towards. This is what I'd thought about for that time, and let's go out and do it. And like I said, I'd never been of a delusional mindset of like, I'm gonna do well, or I'm gonna place, or anything. It had been like, I'm just gonna go out, do my best, and see what the judges think, and see where I'm at, and take it from there, which was what we did. So like, obviously they don't place you outside the top 5.
And there were some big lineups.
I think there was 12 in the class, and I was just like second call out, and you do it, you come off, and like the feeling afterwards is like electric.
Yeah, it's good.
And it was good to see like my mum, she's always supportive, but she never really understood it. But I think when she saw me on that stage and actually enjoying myself, she's like, I can kind of see why you do it.
Definitely.
And then I had a few hours after where I then had my classic class.
Yes.
And I'd had a chat with Finn about things, and then he was there for obviously that second class, and went and did the classic, which was doing 2 classes in one day is quite a lot.
Yeah.
Because you get off stage, you just want to enjoy yourself, but then it's like, right, I need to eat another chicken and peanut butter meal, and then just keep my feet up, and then get back on stage, and then after that day was drove home. I remember that was the day I ended up leaving Finn, just due to all the circumstances and stuff. And we've spoken many times since, and I still have the utmost respect for that man, and the things that he did for me over the 3 years I really value, because they do mold you into the person you are. The way I think, the way I train, the person I am would have never been that person if I'd never had him as my coach. And as a friend, we became really good friends, and I think that's why we're still able to, like, I still want to be able to communicate with him and make sure things are going well, and he checks up on me, I check up on him, because you're friends and you value
and you
that
do build that relationship,
with
your coach. I mean, I've been with John now for 3 years in Feb, and you know, we've got a whole other sort of friendship on the outside as well, as the work that is done within the coaching relationship. And you don't bat an eyelid, and your journey's been so incredible. And I know, obviously, between that, you then obviously did another show, and you've now come away from things, focusing on you, and obviously now you're quite back into training as well, which is cool. And you have obviously so many adventures ahead, which is so exciting for you. And it's probably just been really nice to, I guess, speak about it. I mean, a lot of people tune into the podcast, which I'm very grateful for, and thank you to all of you. And it's really nice to speak about different journeys within the competitive side of things, within the lifestyle side of things, because really you've covered both.
Done it all,
and it's so nice, because I think, you know, there's people out there that can relate to sort of experiences that you've had as well. And you had some questions. Obviously, we've probably covered a lot. But I guess, did you have anything sort of else that you wanted to highlight, or anything from those questions that maybe people asked, to nicely finish off into the podcast today? And I think it's so fun to sort of go into these things, and when people so many people have questions when you come out of a competitive journey 100%. As well.
And I think so I mean, I put a questions box up just to see what people's thoughts were, and we had a few good questions come in that I think they're good to relate to both of us. One question: how does myself or Emily deal with body image issues when it comes to bodybuilding and that side of things, which I think is a very good question to dive into, because we're going to have two very polar opposite, I think, viewpoints due to us being different genders, and how it affects you and that side of things.
Yeah, it's different. And you know what? I get a lot of people ask me this for I guess, off season. And I think that it's also trusting the process of your long-term goals.
100%.
Because I can't smash next year without pushing what I'm doing now.
Exactly.
And it does come with changes. You know, nothing's the same. You know, we're not here to maintain. I'm not interested in maintaining a body weight because I want to grow my physique and change it. So for me, I try to have as much positive association with that rather than me just being like, yeah, I'm gaining weight, I look rubbish. Like, you know, and with clothes, I wear just stuff that fits me, and embracing that rather than you know, nothing fits my legs and arse in off season compared to it did last year. So it's just kind of embracing that.
100%. I find personally, especially coming from the two extremes of being massively overweight to then being like stage lean, is like, it's all based down, for me personally, I find the way I see my body and the way I look at myself is all based on how I am feeling mentally and physically. Yeah. Like, even though I was the leanest I've ever been on prep, I wasn't mentally in a good place. So I don't look at that body as being like, that's my favorite physique.
Yes.
Like, because it's not. I find for me, it's based on the external things that are going on around me. Yeah. So like the best times I've looked in the mirror have always been like, mainly it's performance based, isn't it? Like, yeah, for me, when training's really good, when I'm able to do the things I want to do,
when you can sleep, when you can eat well, when you're enjoying some life, that's
where you find that balance is really important. So I think the body image, you got to understand everyone's body changes on a regular basis, and especially within bodybuilding, it's depending on the situation. But even in like day-to-day life, like, you're gonna have a weekend where you enjoy yourself and you might step on the scales and you're a little bit heavier, but does it change you as an individual?
And also, does it change you having a bloody good time?
No, like no one, the person that cares the most about your physique is you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Most people, if you asked someone, if someone came up to me and said, describe Emily in 10 words, I'm never going to mention your body in one of those 10 words, because it's not how I view you as a person. Yeah. It's That's only how you view yourself as a person. So I think body image is very individual to the people.
It is. And it's also not butchering yourself and tearing yourself apart.
100%.
The work that you put in, the lifestyle that you have, you know, and being kind to yourself. When we go through stressful periods, our physique changes.
Yeah.
And it's not then being like, oh, I look rubbish because of this and this. Be kind to yourself. Like, we're not here to kill ourselves off. Like, you know, you want to be kind.
Embrace what you've got.
More than anything else.
You only have one body, embrace it at the end of the day.
Too right. I reckon we've got time for 2 quick ones before we wrap things up.
Right. We'll go with how did competing affect your body post show, which I think is quite good, and we could do a whole podcast on post show
another time for
sure. But personally, I found that that competitive aspect, obviously post show, as anyone you talk to, post show is harder than prep.
Yeah,
so much harder than prep.
You're more hungry than prep.
But I'd say that post show, you give yourself more leniency to your body because you know what you put it through, especially from a hormonal standpoint. So I'd say the way prep has affected my body is I have more respect for my body.
Yeah.
Because I know what it's capable of.
And it's also understanding that, you know, it will take time to adjust to. And that's okay.
Exactly.
And not being like, oh, I've eaten this, or I used to be worried that I'd go into the gym and someone would know what I've eaten. Or what the hell? What the hell? No one knows what you've eaten. No one, you know, and it's just being kind to those changes.
100%.
Go on then. Right. You got another one? Last one.
Biggest one. Let's go with what was your biggest motivation for change?
Ooh. Seeing what I was capable of.
I think that's
Because I did my first shoot and I just went in with no expectation. And I was like, oh, bloody hell, I've smashed this for me. And I was like, I've never seen my body look like this, nor my confidence, nor every other aspect of my life. Like, I'd just come out of uni. I was about to build my business that I have now and have done for 4 years, which is terrifying. But it's being proud of what you can continuously do. Yes. And that you are able to change anything that you want to. I constantly chase for more, but it's not also, it's just seeing what you're capable of. 100%. And I honestly come out of the other end of it, no matter what phase it's in. And I actually sit back most days and go me. Like, own you and your journey. And I think not enough people do that. People think, oh, I'm not there yet. What is there? Because there'll be another there at some point.
You should never reach your goals, being realistic.
There is, you're constantly going for more and further on. And it's owning that.
Exactly that. like, yeah, I think that is the biggest motivation for change. Was like I said, that day I kind of woke up and I was like, no one's coming to help me. No one's going to save me. Like, I have to do it myself. And that puts you in that position where you're like, right, let's just do it. And you can do anything you put your mind to, and you're a testament to that, and I'm a testament to that. And it's crazy things that you can achieve just by trying.
Yeah, 100%. And it's also, I guess, the last thing to end on is nothing will change if nothing changes.
Exactly.
Like, and it is point blank. And as a coach with my team, work so closely with pushing them and encouraging them, and it's giving them the tools in the bank to believe in themselves to do the work. And I'm there to celebrate every pathway through that. Not every road is straight, but we embrace the up and downs as well.
Exactly.
But yeah, what episode. And thank you, obviously, so much for coming on. I had to get you in before the new year. Now it's heading towards that way.
Scary.
And it was really interesting to hear closer into your story and for you to share it for others that may be able to relate with how their prep's gone, or how their diet phase has gone, or the worries that they have, or the social media side of things.
100%.
There's a lot to sort of cope with, I think, in today's world anyway. And, for anyone out there who is maybe feeling similar, or also just wants a question to either of our journeys, obviously I will be linking Will's Insta to this. And I'm sure, we're more than happy to also come back on if people have more
100%.
questions. Thank you so much.
No worries at all. And just add on to that, if anyone is going through anything similar, then feel free to reach out, and I'd be very happy to kind of help in any way that I can, because I think that's the main thing. Is I wouldn't be here today had I not had the support I had throughout my life from all these important people that I've met.
Your relationships are important.
Exactly.
It's good, everyone around you. But yeah, thank you.
Thank you very
And
much.
hopefully we will see you on the next episode. A big thank you for joining me on my channel and tuning in. Find me on Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, Amazon and YouTube, A Diary to Empower. Follow me on Instagram, m_power.fitness, and TikTok, m.ibert. See you on the next episode.